We're chatting.
Any public input? Okay. Next on the minutes, on the section is approval of the October 1st school board minutes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the October 9th budget work session, school board budget work session. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any errors or omissions that we can think of? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The manifest going around. Treasurer's report.
Do you have the treasurer's report in front of you? It's pretty straightforward. There's really nothing unusual or out of the ordinary on it. The only thing I've noticed is the food service looks a little better than what it's been in the past, but not by a great deal, but it's a little better. Let's put it that way. But that's the report. Any questions?
And although I did not have an opportunity to start to do some of the comparisons, I did leave you all a copy of the expenditure report as of today. There are a number of areas that require some budget moves, and we'll put those together for the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you too, Jerry.
Thank you.
I think the next thing on the agenda is the Lakeway Facility Advisory Committee update. Ralph, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, the committee has been very active in researching all the information we've been gathering up. And a week from Wednesday night, we're going to make a final decision which way the committee feels the school board should go. And on November 5th at 5 p.m. at your board meeting here will be at the high school cafeteria. And we're going to present our findings to the board that night. And I asked for the venue change to the cafeteria because we're going to see a lot of articles coming out from the newspapers. Every week now we're going to have an article or a letter to the editor or something. So I think we're going to be generating a lot of information. And I'm hoping that at that meeting on November 5th, there's going to be a bigger crowd than this little room might be able to handle. So we'll see what happens. But on November 5th, we'll make our final recommendation to the board to see where they want to go.
Thank you, Ralph. The next item on the agenda is the construction manager bids. However, Kyle Barker is going to be here at about 6 o'clock, so I'm going to defer that till he gets here. Under new business, we have October 1st enrollment numbers. I think I only saw Lakeways.
Mine's on my report.
Oh, I see, okay.
Do you want me to go through that?
In a minute. Okay, is everybody set with that one? Okay. So special education reports is next, Kelly.
Looking at enrollment, the enrollment I had listed was 128, but we're actually at 130. We've had a couple new students enroll since I created my report. We're currently advertising for the part-time school social worker position. We'll probably leave that open another week and then review the applicants that we have to see what the selection pool is, and then make a decision from there.
Do you have any applicants right now?
We do have, I think there's seven applicants on School Spring right now.
Okay. Thank you.
I mentioned in my last report that the Fall Impact Academy was going to be starting, and that did start last Tuesday, and we have 5 students participating in that. That's the one that's held 3 hours a day at the Mountain Community College in partnership with vocational rehabilitation. So, just a reminder that the resilience video will be tomorrow evening at the Opera House. The viewing starts at 6 o'clock. I think there's some light refreshments that'll be served starting at 5:30 before that, and then after the video, there'll be a panel discussion. So, hope to see a lot of people there. And then, Adaptive Sports Partnership has started a pilot program. I think today was the first day that they were going to start. So they selected Littleton High School, and they're working with the students in the life skills program on an after-school program. They're doing it every other week right now from 2 to 4 on Mondays. And the focus is, or the theme is, skills to pay the bills. So they're looking at recreational things or functional things that will help students make money. One of the things that they're doing is partnering with, I think, the arts gallery down the street, and there'll be like jewelry making, things like that. So skills that the students can do from the life skills program that will potentially earn them money. So we're fortunate to have Adaptive Sports partner with us on that, and we may increase it to every week, but we started every other week. But they do have the capacity to do it every week if we decide that that's what we want to do. So, yeah, and I may have Matt come and present from Adaptive Sports on that as we get it going, or as they get it going. So, do you have any questions on that?
Only to say the students aren't the only ones who learn from participating in the adaptive sports
Oh,
program.
right, absolutely, for sure.
Okay, Jennifer.
So my board report has the enrollment at the top, 254. It's down 4 since last month. The October numbers are to the right, boy and girl. Should probably have done that in a different location, but that's there for you. Above the notch currently has, that should say 20, it was 20 students. One was going to be credit recovery, never followed through, so that's 20, not 21. They're in their mid-semester, pretty much, so they're going to be transitioning to their economics class, and it's going very well. Kids are finding success, and there's someplace in here, I've got the testimonial later on, learning supports from a student who was involved in that program. It was pretty neat. Talking with them and then including that, it was important to me. General business, I've been meeting with each department, really looking at their budget and making some shifts and finding ways to better support some of our budget needs that are bigger ticket items by using Rochelle. So we'll talk about that when we get to the grant information. Been participating in some local teams, the ATOD, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drugs team, but just started at the end of last year. It's a new team in town. It's called SART. It's a Sexual Assault Resource Team. And one of the things I've noticed as I'm participating in these groups is that one of our goals needs to be really to provide supports to our students so that they don't become victims or aggressors. So looking at some of those community resources has been interesting and thought-provoking when it comes to awareness for our students. So my mindset's there with some of those teams. Homecoming was a success. Crusader Pride built 6 chassis for the relay race and donated those to our different classes so that they could have a car to compete. The kids enjoyed themselves. We did have our Sweethearts and Heroes Assembly. They really talked about hope, and hope represents hold on, possibilities exist. It was a good assembly. I thank Littleton AAA for that. We had about a dozen to 2 dozen families go to different classrooms to talk to teachers during our open house. There were probably 25% of our parent population that attended. We're always talking at our leadership team about ways to improve that, because I'd like those numbers to be higher. Alan Hume Howard has been working with us on a template for our report card with the competency elements, and we're pretty excited that we've kind of figured that template out, and now we're looking at a progress report to accompany that. She will be at our community collaborative this Thursday to help support us as we talk about those transitions and questions and her experience transitioning other schools, so that families understand that it will be a positive and is successful for our students' growth. Our NEASC self-reflection report is being finalized. I did attach it. It is so, I don't expect that you have spent any time with it. It's well over 100 pages, but it's great work. It's probably a third of the writing that was done by our reflection committee members. It was consolidated in the report that we're sending to NEASC, but I wanted you to kind of preview that, and I'd love to have our NEASC co-chairs come at some point to talk about that work. Jay Apicelli joined us, and you might have this in your report a little bit, to talk about restorative practices in the classroom at our last PD day. And it's been interesting, even following up with the conversation at our faculty meeting a week later, some of the conversation shifts that have started to happen with their students and with their peers. So it's been good. Our PSATs were October 10th. Our juniors took those, and when the results come in, we'll be doing paths on Khan Academy. College Board marries Khan Academy a little bit to create those learning paths for students based on their specific individual achievement. So that'll be an opportunity. And I made a note after going to a workshop on SATs. Students spend about 20 hours between the first time they're assessed and the next time. Research says they jump about 100 points in their SAT scores. So we're trying to embed some of that structured time during their task time from the time we get the results of the PSATs till the SAT assessment, and hope that that's a support for them as they move forward. We've done UNH, our seniors have gone to the college fair at UNH. We had a parent night September 24th that was attended by about half our families. The testimonials there. And it was written by one of the 4 adult learners that are in our program. And then how meaningful that's been for them to find a learning platform that works for them. Our district safety committee met, and they, with Homeland Security, and have started initial conversations about a community response drill. And resilience, we've done that. That's about all. Anybody has any questions?
Any questions from the board?
I just have one question regarding the UNH College Fair.
Yes.
And I think we asked this last year, but October 2nd of their senior year is too late for them to be going to a college fair. They need to be going to that. Juniors need to be going to this. Is it only open to seniors?
For us, we only open it to seniors, and I think typically the schools that go are just sending seniors.
Okay, because I've put 2 kids through, they're either through college or already through, and you're behind the 8 ball in October if you haven't already started the application process to your colleges. A lot of the money that they give away to these students in scholarships is given to those students that apply by the end of October or early November. And a lot of that money's dried up come January and February, and the only kids that are then getting money are the true kids that are going in that are in the top 10 of their class. So I think in the future coming years, that needs to be opened up to juniors. Unless UNH isn't allowing it, then it's
I'll
a
check
hit
with
issue.
UNH.
But in my opinion, your juniors should be going to that and not the seniors, because although if you're going to do both, great, but really October 2nd if you don't have any clue what colleges you're interested in looking at, you're behind the 8 ball when it comes time for getting an acceptance letter that will come with some financial money for the parents and merit scholarships. For both of my kids, they'd applied to all their colleges by October 1st.
How did they know to do that, Greg?
Because my wife and I did a lot of research.
That's how
read
you know,
about
yeah.
it, or you're in the.
So it's not a publication that comes
Absolutely
out and let schools know?
It's
There's
absolutely not.
actually a lot of resources.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff
There's a
online.
lot of
I'm sorry?
resources.
There's a lot of stuff online and a lot of stuff you can research and find that out.
So, okay, some of the onus is on them there.
Absolutely. But so that's just, I know that we asked this last year. So I think just for next year,
I'll look into what UNH
yeah.
considered.
I mean, in the spring, to have
If there was a,
juniors to be seniors going in the spring, that's a different case.
yeah,
But-
but the fair's in October, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think too, sometimes those informational meetings, you know, that they do at the college, you go sign up and do the tour, and I think there are probably some opportunities for kids who've gone earlier in their career. As a mom, looking back on that, I was like, wow, I wish I took my kid to this when they were freshmen.
We started with,
Because, you know, because it's really, they'll lay it right out there. If you get this on your SAT, you get this much money. You know, it's pretty, and for a child, you know, who's like 14 and sort of, or 15 and sort of thinking about how they want to apply themselves or not, it can be kind of motivating, you know? So I think those types of things earlier is good. I think it's true. But I will say too that Khan Academy, it works.
Yeah,
So
it
if
does.
you can get the kids to do that in task time, you're gonna see some improvement, because it definitely
We
works.
did it this year.
Yeah.
We did it this year, we required about all of our juniors this year, and had mixed results when you require and mandate it. So we're gonna be looking at an opting out with parent permission, but they're all doing it again this year.
But some students must have seen the 100-point jump.
Some did, but.
I mean, like in 20 hours, I think it's pretty much you're gonna see a 100-point
Yeah,
jump
you are.
if you
That's what the
actually do it.
research says,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, I mean, at least, so, yeah, so.
and I mean, the other thing that's on here, like your senior parent night,
Mhm.
and this was true for both my kids, and probably, this is probably a better percentage than it was when my kids came through. But, you know, 50% of the families were in attendance for the senior parent night. Was that the same night that they did the financial aid information and all that?
No, that's coming up,
Okay,
it's coming up.
Okay. because I know that in the past, that is so poorly unattended, and I don't understand why parents would not want to go to that meeting, because it's such critical information for your graduating seniors that are moving on to college.
I wonder if parents, experienced parents could be a resource, or like a panel discussion, do you know what I mean? I'm just
Yeah.
throwing that out there, but I mean, they're kind of in the trenches of
Yeah,
doing it, and I don't know, so,
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, on top of that,
sounds like you've got it down, Greg.
well,
No,
it's
Just
not
like you
perfect,
got-
not perfect.
You got a
but
lot of kids to get through
Oh,
college.
yes.
Anyway. But it does take a lot of work.
It is.
No, it
Dedicated parents to do that.
Anything else for Jennifer?
Thank you.
Alan?
Great.
Okay, career tech, goals are the same. Staffing, as you know, we have no openings, but we are. Very shortly, in November, we'll be starting our clinicals. So typically, we'll have some nominations for you at our next meeting in November, but typically teachers participate, but also we look outside to see if we could hire somebody else to support the clinical hours of our students as they pursue their LMA. Enrollment you have, again, we talked about last week at the budget meeting, so enrollment remains steady at over 200, about 100 out-of-district students, and a little bit over 100 Littleton students participate in junior and senior programming. Industry post-secondary connections. I think you're all well aware that we have a 20-year agreement with folks in Whitefield, because we are Region 3, we refer to Region 3 CTE. So we did have a meeting last week, and that is attended by
superintendents, principals, definitely directors, and we discussed calendar, alignment of calendar once again, transportation issues, programs at both centers. It was well attended. We do meet 4 times a year. Then we have a special meeting just for guidance counselors to try and talk about the recruiting process. So we did meet last week. We met in our conference room. It's a busy week for us, sort of a busy month for students and their student organizations. FBLA members attended their fall conference last week. I'll be attending with Mr. Rudine and a number of students to Manchester to participate in Community College Expo. It's Automotive Technology Education and College Expo this Thursday. And I did skip a meeting at NHTI. It was supposed to be this Wednesday to discuss LPM programs, possibly happening in the high school. Received an email today that was postponed, so I won't be going to Concord on Wednesday, but I will be traveling to Manchester on Thursday with the auto students. On Friday, the Educators Rising will be attending their fall Teacher Fest at Plymouth State College, where they will be attending conferences, and there is a career in college fair. We'll be bringing sophomores, juniors, and some seniors to that. We'll be hosting every month the directors around the state, 23 Grand Tech Centers. We typically meet at a different school. So this Friday we'll be hosting that meeting here in Littleton. Directors will be present. Also the Department of Education is always present at those meetings, and higher ed. So we'll have most of the morning on Friday will be devoted to that. Our digital video production class will be traveling to Northern Vermont University, formerly known as Linden State College, to observe. They put on a nightly newscast, Channel 7. We'll be going there next Tuesday to view that show. So we typically leave after school. They tape around 5 o'clock, so we get to see that. Pretty exciting happening. I'm a member of the White Mountain Community College Board. We will have a meeting on the 24th next week. I attended a meeting last week. Steve was there, and Chuck Lloyd, who's the president of White Mountain Community College. We were asked to meet with a dentist representing local dentists. Apparently there's some talk around the area, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, about the lack of employees, entry-level jobs in the dentistry field. So we're just brainstorming any possibility maybe down in the future of supporting programming to meet that need. So I guess there is a significant need in the area. And I did meet with Bill Demers, as you recall. He did leave to work at North Country Healthcare and cares in the Department of Education. And we have some needs, including some education around the use of the SIMMAN that he could provide some support around. We also have some equipment that they may like to borrow at times, so I think we may be able to develop an agreement where we could both benefit. So both the hospital and so he's very involved in the education aspect of it. So I think it would be a good partnership that would both entities would benefit. A lot of discussion this evening already around colleges and careers and career pathways. Just to let you know that we meaning myself and Jen and guidance, some other folks in the high school, middle school, have reviewed some career pathway curriculum and user platform. There are quite a few out there. We did agree that would be best suited for us with the Naviance software package. And I did write that package into the Perkins Fund for this year, so we could certainly pay for that out of Perkins, which involves use of the platform, and in the first year, there's a lot of professional development around the use. This is really a software package for guidance, so I think I could support it through Perkins for a couple of years, but I think eventually it should become something that guidance uses and that the district can budget for out of the guidance department. It does provide students as young as 5th or 6th grade with activities that they could be engaged in to try and help them decide on a career path. But as you move later in the years, Naviance Suite provides a lot of assistance for students and families looking for colleges, creating that. Like you said, there's a lot of things online, but this pulls all that together. That is really user-friendly for students and parents to help them navigate those difficult choices, choosing a college, paying for college. So hopefully we'll have that up and running soon and pilot some pieces of it, and maybe in a year or so we'll have pieces that offer to students really in 6th grade and up to give them, and students certainly through this platform develop, and I'll know much more after the PD, but they create an electronic portfolio that stays with them. You know, all your reference letter goes into one area that could be shipped out very easily to colleges of your choice. I talked to different people, different guidance counselors, schools around the area and around the state using this product. So we should have that up and running fairly soon. Also, I just want to mention another program around career education. It's called the Medallion Program. It's sponsored by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, and it's a program with the directors in the state chose Idea to Career Planning. It's another software package, and this is offered to I think 10 schools who may be interested. So I said that we would be interested, so we have some seniors that will be piloting this program to help them again make those choices. Maybe a little late, but these seniors are kind of undecided, so we'll help them with the process. And again, this is sponsored by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. And I think what's really good about this program, it will promote those scholarships, which we do anyways, but just additional promoting of these scholarships that are offered online to students. There's a number of great scholarships that we offer through Littleton High School. Schools do very well, but these are offered statewide, and there's a lot of money there that really isn't tapped into. And Steve wanted me to mention, because it's on my program, that we're actually working with Rochelle. Just at the beginning of the school year, we wrote a Career Pathways grant, which was for about $14,000, which allows us to use some of that money for above the notch, for their career planning, as well as possibly in the future hiring somebody to help us facilitate this I think is really important educational piece. So that hopefully a posting, and hopefully a name will be coming forward to the board to help facilitate. This grant is only a one-year grant. It's from now until the end of June. So we'll use that money to help support career planning. I don't know, Steve, did you want to mention anything?
Yeah, I think we're going to work, we need to work on the job description, obviously, so you have an idea. It's a short-term position that would go away at the end of the year after the grant funds are expended, but again, as Al said, we're going to help support the career guidance and planning and post-secondary education specifically for students that are involved in CTE programs, but also it'll reach into the above the notch students and the other students in the high school as well.
And just in the, a little update, no pun intended, Little Leopards are hosting a gratitude and game night that you're all invited to.
Thank you.
And we are updating our website. Our website is fairly new, but it's not user friendly, so that was also another Perkins. I'll show you one right out, another right out. And that's it for this month, unless there's any questions.
When are you gonna get Dale report, or are you gonna hold that?
I think with Dale's, unfortunately, he's not able to be with us this evening, but I think hopefully get a chance to take a look at the written report. If there's any questions that the board has, we'll do our best to answer anything that's in that report. And we provided several links to facility meetings. A little bit of information I think is notable on the options for the rooftop unit cafeteria. But again, I would prefer him to be present, obviously, before we go too much further
Can you
into
hold that
that.
till the next meeting then?
Yeah.
I have some questions about this, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that. Crystal, I guess.
Okay. My enrollment's changed a little bit, as you can see. Down overall 6 students. I feel like it changes daily, so stay tuned. Just to echo what the other administrators have said, we had the restorative justice training with Jay. My faculty reflected on that also at the faculty meeting, and we'll be reaching out to him for continued trainings. They really enjoyed the training. They think it will be effective, and we're looking to sort of make it specific to elementary students and have it in the Lakeway, so we'll be continuing that. And we're continuing to work on our competencies and indicators. We will work with Ellen Hume-Howard this week to start building our report card as well. So hopefully at the next board meeting I'll have more to share on that. Kelly already referred the school social worker position's been posted. We also we'll have another opening that you will probably find out non-public today. A bunch of events. We had our fire prevention week. Lots of excitement. If you were anywhere near Lakeway Friday morning, you could hear it. We had 7 winners, and all 7 winners for the poster contest were first-time winners, so there was a ton of excitement. And they also stayed after in grade 1. They're studying community workers, so they got to do touch a truck, and they had 6 or 7 trucks there, so that was very exciting. And we ended the week with a fire drill, so we sort of bookended it all in there. The Mark Peabody Walk, Run, and Roll 5K was supposed to be last Thursday, but due to weather, it'll be this Thursday, starting at 3:30. The money raised there is for winter program and adaptive sports scholarships. Red Ribbon Week is this month. We sort of celebrate kindness and anti-bullying, and we do that throughout the week, and there's activities every day and dress-up days every day. It's also Halloween week, so it's complete and utter chaos anyways. So we'll just add to that. Winter program packets. Halloween stuff from these parts. Winter program packets will be coming out soon, so that'll be exciting. The kids are already talking about it. And I wanted to mention, and I haven't all year, I don't know why, but we currently have several students from Al's CTC program doing observations in the classrooms. And we also have one junior that's doing an internship in first grade, and he's wildly popular on the kickball field. So far, so good.
All right.
Pretty awesome.
Okay, so grant writing report is done. Athletic Director David.
I got 5 of these, so you guys all have to share. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I'm going to hand it out to you first, just so that I don't have to hold it. And you got something to write notes on if you desire.
By the way,
So we got not behind Peggy. So I just wanted to start off with kind of the sports report from all the different teams. Bass fishing, it's a tongue twister. Bass fishing finished the season just a little bit ago. They were in the qualifying round of the NHIAA tournament about a month ago, and they caught a number of different fish. They had a great time. They learned a lot. They finished 30th out of 32 teams at the qualifying round. So it's a good start for the first year. Field hockey just finished up their season last week. They ended with a 2-12 record, but they were really proud of them. They showed a lot of growth. They showed a lot of strength in overcoming adversity and different things throughout the year. So they're working hard. Golf team just finished last week also. They finished the regular season as a team in 2nd place in Division 4. They went to the tournament and got 4th at the tournament. And then one of our golfers, Spencer Stevens, just finished the individual competition for Division 4 and finished in 2nd place.
That's awesome.
So yeah, they did great.
He did well. He really did well.
Yeah, it was a good season for him. Boys soccer and girls soccer are the only varsity sports still going on right now. And boys soccer is currently 13-1. They have 2 more games to finish the season next week, and then the week after that we'll host the preliminary round here on Tuesday. The girls soccer is 10 wins, 3 losses, and 2 ties. And they've got 2 more games. No, they've got 1 more game this week to finish the season, and they'll also host the preliminary round Thursday, October 25th. So the boys' first tournament game will be Tuesday, October 23rd, and the girls' is Thursday, October 25th. And we'll host both of those most likely. So another thing that's been going on this past month, just briefly, I went to a training on vaping, which is a big issue in our community and all over the country as well. And I went with our cheer coach, so our varsity cheer coach, and I went. We learned a lot. I plan to take the information I got from there and kind of give that to the student athlete leadership team, and so we'll kind of get knowledge about vaping and its dangers and things like that spread amongst the athletes, and hopefully get a culture going that's real anti-vaping. So,
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
What's the age that typically at your training that people are starting to vape?
middle school,
Okay, middle school.
even as low as 5th or 6th
Yeah,
grade.
that's what I thought. So I hope you'll share your information with a broader group of people that you learn in the school system. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
love to read the material, you know, just as a community member, do you know what I mean about that? Because I don't think it's something that everyone is necessarily familiar with.
Yep.
Even though some of the kids are, you know? But
I agree, and
So-
yes, and
thanks for going to the training.
most of us aren't familiar with it because it's so new. It's really just taken off in the past few years, so.
Yeah. So,
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off short there.
No, go ahead.
No, finish.
Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the handout I gave to you, which is the invoice for the Dave's taxi vans that we got for the golf team this past season. Judy estimates that this is about a $2,000 savings from the bus transportation that the golf team used last year. We have hopes that the new district van will allow us to continue to have savings compared to the bus company. It can be utilized by the golf team, the bass fishing team, the ski team, both tennis teams, the cheer team, and even occasion maybe utilized by basketball teams. So there's lots of different athletic uses for the van. So that's about it.
Good job. Got the message.
Good information. Thank you.
Thank you,
You
David.
bet.
That's good though. Are you enjoying yourself, David?
I am, yeah. It's been great.
I mean, it's all a new year for you and a new place to live, and it's been a lot.
Yep, it's been good. I will say that I've been really pleased with the team that I have to work with. Judy's been a great help. The administration at the high school has been a great help. The coaches have been stellar. So I really appreciated working with the folks here. I will say also, if anyone has any dances to keep the snow away, there's snow forecasted for Tuesday, and we don't need that. So.
Thank you, David.
Thanks. Melanie.
So, curriculum instruction assessment reporting for Lakeway. On the October 5th PD day, the elementary school teachers worked very hard to finalize their grade level math and English language arts competencies and indicators. And these are the competencies and indicators that will be entered into Power Teacher Pro. So I met with Matt today to begin the preliminary steps to get those uploaded. And the upload will probably happen either tomorrow or Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we are meeting, as Crystal mentioned, with Alan Howard, the consultant, to discuss the competencies and indicators that we've chosen, as well as to begin to design our report card for Lakeway. And then we will begin to provide training for the teachers in probably grade level small groups to familiarize them with the platform and to begin to practice entering assignments and attaching indicators and using that as their grade book. So, but the plan is to have our Power Teacher Pro generate our first report card for trimester 1. And then also in grade level PLCs at Lakeways, the teachers continue to collaborate to examine student work and to assess progress and determine which targeted interventions are needed. And they're also communicating with each other about scope and sequence and how that's going, and making modifications to make sure that they're staying on track. And then lastly for Lakeway, the fall NEWA testing is complete, and I'll be working with the teachers at the grade levels to help to analyze that data and then use it to target instruction to students' strengths and also their needs. And we'll also be looking at last spring's state data to do the same. And then up at the high school, the teachers are working in their bi-weekly PD blocks. So there's 4 blocks throughout the course of the day, depending, and every teacher, whether they're in the middle school, high school, or CTC, participates, and they're great conversations because they're cross-content conversations. And we're looking at competencies and assessment and reporting mostly right now. And a big focus is on the effective use of formative assessments and summative assessments. And then it's kind of neat, they're actually beginning to feel comfortable enough to seek out help from their colleagues and either seek out help and kind of toss things around to work through making assessment work and making rubrics work, and then also sharing things that they found have worked for them And so that's going on at these bi-weekly meetings as well as at their monthly vertical team meetings. Actually, I just came here from one that was a very productive, the English Language Arts Department meeting. And then as Jen had spoke earlier, the juniors took the PSATs last week and it seemed to go off without a hitch. And she also spoke to how we'll be using their scores and the data from that to provide interventions and then also targeted instruction using teachers as well as Khan Academy. And then once again, for the high school, the NEWA testing is also complete. So I'll be working with 7th and 8th grade teachers to look at that for math and English language arts. And then 9th and 10th grade teachers to look at math, English language arts, and science. Any questions on that? So then professional development. We have it's kind of a district UDL team, Universal Design for Learning, but due to, because it's so hard to get teachers from both buildings at regular meetings, we kind of have 2 internal meetings. So a Crusader team, UDL team, and then a Lakeway UDL team. And so there's 16 teachers that have volunteered their time to be part of this. And we had two monthly meetings, internal meetings, and then there's 3 face-to-face workshops that is put on by the Innovation Network. And we had members from each team attend the fall one, and that was about a week and a half ago. And then in our meetings, our internal meetings last week, they shared their information and their ahas with the teachers who weren't able to go to that face-to-face. And let's see, both teams have chosen to focus on the infusing UDL through design learning strand, and that will kind of shape our focus and our further discussions as we go through the year. And then we will also have the UDL implementation specialist who is working with us come and visit us 3 times. She'll visit each school 3 times over the course of the year to conduct instructional rounds and then to debrief with the UDL team. And then we have 3 teachers and myself from Lakeway who attended a 4-day training this summer called the Ongoing Assessment Project, and I think you can link to that off of my report. And so OGAP, which it's called, aims to increase teacher math content knowledge, also teacher understanding of how students learn math concepts, and also formative assessment practices specific to math. It was a great training this summer, and it's awesome that they're providing this continued support as opposed to just having the training and then you move on and don't necessarily ever use it. So these 3 teachers and myself will be attending 3 follow-up sessions this fall, the first of which is on Thursday in Plymouth. And then the second one will be held at Lakeway, and then the third one will be held in April.
No, what grade, I'm sorry to interrupt, what grade level are those teachers at?
One is, so we have a 3rd grade teacher, a 6th grade teacher, and then Steph Wyman, who is our Title I math, who's kind of turning into our our primary math specialist. And then they're sharing out with their teams as well. So this OGAP has different cohorts. They have a kind of K2 cohort, a 3-6 cohort, and then 2 different ones for middle school. So this was the one that was available to us this summer, but it would be great to have teachers go and attend the others as well, so that everybody's on board with this kind of thinking and application. And let's see, we have, this was just determined, we're going to have 7 teachers, 3 from Lakeway and 4 from the middle high school, take part in the Quality Performance Assessment Institute, which is right in line with everything that we're doing with with Karen Hess, with performance assessments and rubrics, as well as the work that we did last year with Ellen Howard, and all the discussions that are going on in our PD in-house as well. And so this is a multi-district opportunity. There's 4 different cohorts. We're attending the North Country cohort, and it's held in Lancaster. And the first one is October 30th. And then, so the focus there will be to design performance assessments and rubrics and practice collaborative practices and protocols to bring back to their teams. And let's see. And then lastly, all teachers, K-12, will be working with Karen Hess this year. They'll be working 2 days so she's coming to work with the high school teachers for 1 day this fall, and then the next day the elementary school teachers. And then the same thing in January, and then our March PD day, she's coming to work with everyone.
A lot going on.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, I was told that you could do a grant writer.
I can, I'm sorry. I should have said something about it. I just got looked up. As I've been going and having conversations with my departments, I said earlier, I've been identifying some of the challenges we have financially, like we talked PE about our fitness room, and when and where do we put in replacement of equipment that's nearing its end of life. It's not going to fit in our budget anywhere. So it's been nice having Rochelle. I went to her with that, and a music purchase that would not ever fit into a budget. Marching band equipment is nearing the straps are falling apart and so forth. So she's working on grants for some of those items. That's kind of like capital reserve, as we were talking before the meeting. Things that just is not that place for. So she's looking for opportunities to find grants or other type of financial support for a music program, as well as updating our fitness room. She's working with this, you can actually Project Lead the Way at the elementary school for iPad. She's looking at Pledge Sense opportunities for people to support programs like that. She's actually submitted an application for Fitness for Charity. She's worked with our food service, not provider, but the cafeteria and a hot chocolate milk machine. Can't serve hot chocolate, but you can serve hot chocolate milk. Anyway, they're working on finding a grant for that. She's been in contact with the fire department looking for grants for an AED on the second floor of Lakeway. And in those conversations, the fire department may have one for us. So those conversations are happening. And the school-wide, I mentioned that the safety team had met about doing a community emergency response drill. So she's been kind of feeling out and ready to seek some funds to support that effort. So that's what's on her.
Okay. Thank you. So, now we'll go back to Kyle. Welcome.
Hi there.
So I noticed we have 4 different bids.
So I, heard the summary here. Oh, Alpha, the report.
Actually, I know,
Want to make sure you folks got the original copy that's scanned, because, you know, the way it's put together and whatnot. I think it's worth seeing them just to understand the overall quality of the proposals. You know, they range a bit, but, you know, the information is all pretty much the same format. So there are 4 bids total. Hutter, Buck Stone, Dan Hebert, and Trumbull Nelson.
Yeah, you just pass those around, I think, if you'd like. for everything. We made enough for the board and
So
enough
folks
for
have-
I think the audience as well, so you can kind of see the bids.
So it's just,
Is it the same thing as this other suit?
And it's on the drive.
No, I think we've got, mine's got more
I've got
information, I'm
this.
good. That has,
You
it has
have-
Pretty
everything,
similar,
it
but-
has everything and more, so we're good, I think, unless they've changed.
What I'm handing out is actually from the SAU. What you've got in front of you is what I generated.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is just a short
Same
version of it.
Okay.
You-
Thank you.
So the RFP that I wrote asks for basically two parts. Qualifications and a fee proposal. But it very clearly stated in the RFP that this was a qualifications-based selection. So although, you know, the pre-construction fee and the construction manager fee are really important, what's more important is the qualifications. We invited all four bidders. So it's not like any one of them is disqualified. What we're really looking at is sort of the level of quality and then comparing it to the fee. So if you've got two fees that are relatively similar, but the qualifications are a lot different, then obviously that helps to inform the decision. So you really need to take it all in terms of making the best decision. So in the other sheet that the school board has, what I tried to do was to quantify some of those qualifications, such as experience, distance from the site, and bonding capacity, which you might kind of wonder, why is that important? Well, it speaks to the financial stability of a firm. The higher the bonding capacity, the higher the amount of work that the company does. It speaks to experience. But also, in order to have a high bonding capacity, you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. So we're talking, you know, some of these companies have millions of dollars just set aside in the bank, just to prove to their insurance companies that if something were to happen, that they had enough resources to pay their subs and suppliers. So these are all important factors, and when you're looking at, you know, potentially a $20 million project, you don't want to get somebody that has less than a $20 million bond, because they won't be able to insure your project. So with that said, I have worked with two of the companies out of the four. My company's actually worked with 3 out of the 4 companies. I personally worked with Bonaparte Stone and Hutter Construction on a number of school projects, and can vouch for both of them. I have not worked with Trumbull Nelson. My company, Warren Street, before I came on board, has worked with Daniel Hebert. So we've got experience with most of the bidders. So when I reviewed and came up with that matrix that you folks have, again, I tried to put it into clear terms, rated each category on essentially a 1 through 5, and then gave it a weighted number at the end in order to come up with what my recommendation is. And let me kind of walk through the cost proposal for a second. I think the qualifications, you know, the distance, the quality, the experience, those things are relatively easy to understand. Sometimes the numbers, the cost can be kind of difficult, because this is not the actual cost of construction. What we're looking at here is 2 pieces. One is the pre-construction fee, which is essentially what you would pay them from now until construction starts. So if, you know, with the different scenarios that we've talked about with bond votes, that period of time could be as much as 2 years. And so it could be a significant amount of work. And so we want to make sure that that was covered up front. The second fee, the construction manager fee, is the construction manager's cost for running the project. Basically their overhead and profit once the project is approved, is in construction. It doesn't mean it's the only thing you're paying the construction manager. It's essentially their profit in the project. So the higher the fee, the more the profit they're going to make. It does cover some overheads, such as the in-house management, secretaries, equipment but nothing on the project site. There's another pot of money called the general conditions, that what actually happens on the job site. The problem is the general conditions are directly related to the project, what kind of project, how big of the project is, how long the length of the project is. So we can't get general conditions factored into this bid because we don't know what project we're working on yet. So what we wanted to do is to at least have some way of comparing the fees once we get into construction, but I just wanted to point out that that negotiation is not complete with this. It's just a way to benchmark the different companies. We need to be diligent when we get into it to make sure that they don't increase their general conditions to offset a lower fee. So don't look at a really low fee and say, wow, that's awesome, because we still need to negotiate the general conditions part of it. So with that said, out of the 4 bids, they ranged pretty significantly in cost. The high for pre-construction of $25,000, not unreasonable when you consider this could last for 2 years, to a low of $5,000, which I know is basically just a gift. They're not counting on that $5,000, they just don't want to throw in 0 because that would look kind of silly. So a real range there from nearly free to a fair amount of money. The construction manager fee, 4% is a very reasonable number for the size of the project we're talking about. 2.25% I thought was phenomenally good. 1.5% I have never seen before. Ever. So it kind of threw a red flag for me. Why is somebody throwing in such a low figure? Like I said, even in the best construction times when prices were low and people were hungry, I think 1.9 was the lowest I ever saw. In the 2 range was pretty common back then. 2.25, like I said, I thought was almost too low. I've been told by construction managers that 3% is sort of the break-even point. So when you go below 3%, people are really hungry and really want the project. So it seemed to me that those 2 companies, Trumbull Nelson and Bonnet Page Stone, between the pre-construction fee and their construction management fee, seemed very aggressive with the costs. When you compare them then in terms of the qualifications, Trumbull Nelson is an old company that's done a lot of good projects, but lacks a significant amount of educational experience. Bonnet Page Stone, on the other hand, put it this way, I've worked with Bonnet Page Stone on more projects than Trumbull Nelson listed in their qualifications. So, they've got a significant amount of educational experience.
Is it true what I read, and a lot of reading,
Yeah.
and I didn't take notes?
Yeah.
So, is it true that Trumbull Nelson, when I looked through them, I looked for who built a complete school? Not who renovated, not who put on an addition and whatnot. And the only one I really came up with was Trumbull Nelson.
Who's?
Built a complete school from scratch. You said they didn't have a lot of experience in that. I thought that's what you said.
I've built several projects, complete school projects with Bonnet Page Stone from scratch. So
From scratch?
Oh yeah, I would say, well, so what I had trouble with Trumbull Nelson's package was that the school projects they listed seemed to be lacking in information. There wasn't a lot of dates on them, and I'll give you an example. The Unity School, I have a lot of knowledge of.
I saw that too. I agree with you there.
It looked like they built it, but they didn't. They came in and fixed it at the end. So it seemed to me like, and if you read it carefully, they actually say that. So it's not clear the level of service that they provided that school district for that project. Like I said, with Bonnet Page Stone, I didn't even read it that carefully because I've got personal experience with how much we've done. So anyway, so that's the rationale why I ranked those 2 companies the way I did. I felt that Bonnet Page Stone had significant more experience. Well, if you look at the list, just in the last 10 years, they've completed 10 schools that were over $10 million. I know before that, that I've completed with them 2 or 3 others of that size and range. It was just, they're too old for them to have put it in there. Keith McVeigh, the president of the company, I first worked with in 1993 on the renovations of the Belmont Middle School. It was a $5 million project in '93. So that's how long that we've been working with them.
They did profile, right?
And they did profile, which we've actually talked about during the committee as being sort of a reference of how a school could be renovated while it's in session.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And so if you want to talk to them about that, they probably have some pretty good information on how that happened.
Okay.
So I think it's a tough choice. I wish it was a little bit clearer when you talk about a 3/4% difference in fee. That's over $20 million. It's $150,000 in savings between the two. But we don't know what the general conditions are, and the fact is that when it gets into construction and the subs are bid out, that the cost differences there is the most significant. And so you need to look at the project management between the two companies. Bonnet Page and Stone, again, through personal experience, they have online web-based project management tools that they use. It's called Procore. There's a lot of companies that are starting to do that. They were the first ones that I worked with that had it. And that is a way to make the construction process quicker, simpler. It's all electronic based. I didn't see a similar system for Trumbull Nelson. You know, the BPS boasts that they, during the savings, during the bidding process, that they can save more than what their fee costs. So, you know, I think that's something to consider is the experience of the project management. I'd say at this point in time, my recommendation is, I think BPS ranks the highest. I feel that you folks should meet probably them and at least one other company in order to have a true feeling of what it would be like to work with them. I think that beyond all this, that, you know, personal relationship during the construction process is also very important. If you don't feel comfortable with the person that you're hiring to do the construction, then it breaks everything down. You have to have a positive feeling on the site. So I would recommend definitely interviewing at least the recommended company, if not the 2 lowest fees, which would be Trumbull Nelson BPS. The other thing to consider, and we've talked about it before, is community impact. That, you know, there's other companies like Dan Hebert, who has done a lot of work in town, has worked with the district before. They were the highest fee, but again, fee is only one factor. The ability or the comfort in work in dealing with the person that you're hiring is actually the most important thing. It might be worth considering them as well. Hunter Construction is the biggest firm in the list. They've done a lot, and they probably have the most experience in working with schools. But their distance, I felt, was a factor. They seemed a little less interested in the project, BPS, toward the facility, and seemed very interested. And so considering that their numbers were not low and that their interest wasn't very high, you know, I kind of ranked them towards the bottom of the list. So I kind of blew through that pretty quickly.
How did you gauge interest? Was it just I don't really have your, like, I see your
I didn't rate the interest in that list.
Okay.
That's not factored in there.
Okay, I get it, if someone came to look at the building, so who did come look at the building, of the
four, the only ones that came that I know of is BPS.
BPS,
Does anybody know if somebody else came?
okay, was it, alright.
I think that explains, you know, the low fee and you know, their interest. It might be that it's fitting well in their schedule, or, you know, again, they do a tremendous amount of schoolwork, and they might project out, oh, in 2020, really want, you know, at least one bond vote, and this looks like a good project, so they might be putting in a low fee just to lock that in. You think from their standpoint, it's good insurance to be able to have a project like this.
I have one question on BPS.
Mm-hmm.
On one of their pages, they have the pre-construction, pre-bond vote of 5,000 and the CMP of 2.25, and then they have a CMP for owner authorized changes, which is another 2.25.
Yeah, which means it's the same. So here's why, in the RFP I asked the question, you know, what's your CM fee? But during changes, how does the fee change? And here's why I asked that. I've had other companies have one fee for the basic contract and then a higher fee for any changes. A lot of construction companies make a lot of money on change orders. And so I wanted to make them tell me that it's the same, that they're not going to charge us more for changes than they do in the regular. So those two, that's where those two numbers come from. So there is no, it's 2.25 no matter what size the project is.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing on Trouble Nelson, on their construction management fee page, they've actually got 3 options, and the 1.5 is for a new construction, 18 million or more.
Right.
So they've got addition and renovations of a 2% fee up to 12 million, and a renovation over 5 years of 9.5 million of a CM fee of 4%. So the bigger the project, the lower the rate.
Right. And a new construction is easier than renovations, so it kind of makes sense that they would have a different fee. On the other hand, when you're talking about the CM fee, it's essentially overhead and profit, which shouldn't be different on the different projects. Because the office is run the same way, no matter what the project is. So I think that's the reason why bottom pages don't put the same fee in for any of that.
So in the RFP, okay, and I just, because this was a little different, what I read here was a little different what I heard you just say, so I just want to get clarification.
Yep, sure.
It says the construction manager contract for services relating to this study is to last from October 2018 through March 2019. So there's a very kind of, to me, when I read that, that's a very sort of specific end time. That we're looking at, you know, just this number of months. And I was really perplexed by the range of bids for that period of time.
Yeah.
Now, when you were just talking, you were just said, and it's absolutely true, it might take, it's going to be a process probably getting this to go through. But this really, based upon this RFP, how it was written, I'm thinking that these fees apply to that 6 months basically, or is that different than what I just kind of want to get a little clarification on that.
You're right. Based on the RFP, it would only be good through March.
Okay.
On the other hand, I spoke with all the bidders and talked to them about what the process we were looking at and the likelihood the construction wouldn't start until 2020. And so I think you caught me in a mistake.
Well, no, I'm not trying, I'm just trying to understand. Yeah.
I know for sure that BPS was going to hold that through 2020.
Okay.
And I would check with the other ones before telling you that the other ones would too.
I just wondered if maybe some of the people were thinking, oh, this is going to take a while, so I was just trying to figure out why there was such a big difference in those fees, you know, and I thought that might have been part of it, projecting out what would be involved to get something like this through.
I had a conversation with Keith McVeigh, the president of Bonner Page Stone, and he basically said that he used to do the pre-construction for free, but that it was getting to the point where you know, everybody was asking for it, and if you put in a zero, it looked bad. So he put in $5,000 as basically a placeholder. He's not looking to get paid for the pre-construction fee. So I think that's the difference, is that, you know, the other ones with the higher numbers are actually looking to cover their costs. And BPS is seeing this as an investment into a long-term relationship.
You did beg the question though, as to why it was there like that. I mean, it's kind of, I'm glad you followed up and asked.
Yeah, I should have put that through till 2020. I mean, any of the scenarios that we talked about, really, it's unlikely construction would start next spring. So, you know, we need to make sure whoever we hire, we ask, if this goes past March 2019, and I should have had that in the RFP, but we can ask them as we move forward to make sure that they're okay with that. But I can guarantee you BPS has already answered that question.
Okay.
You mentioned that you had talked to VPS about the CM fee staying the same as what was the other name of the fee, the other fee?
Change orders.
Change order fee. Did you confirm that with the other three?
No.
Okay, so, and that's not in the proposals that I saw? As far as the
Right.
change request?
Right.
So I think we also need clarification on that from the other three as well.
It's pretty standard. Oh. How many are we down this one? Multiple. Only one. But that was road. Yeah. Should do it in New Jersey.
Do y'all have other questions? I have more, but go ahead, I don't
No,
want
go ahead.
please go ahead and ask yours, because I,
No,
We're all set with us. Yeah, this is
Got
what
the
we're
floor.
talking about. We've done this before, so go for it.
you've done it before. Oh, with the committee.
And with other, she's done this in previous lives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and as I have.
go for it.
As I have.
So in the RFP, number 3, prepare schematic construction cost estimate on a selected alternative. Okay, that's really what, is part of what they're gonna be providing us.
Yes.
Is my, okay. So a schematic construction cost, so they're gonna give us sort of the general fees, not fees, but the general cost of the
Yes,
project, so
yes.
whichever one the committee recommends.
Right, there's a lot of
or
decisions
ask for.
that need to be made on the project, and some of this is driven by the cost. You know, so if you've got renovations, in my report, I put in an estimate
Yeah.
of what the 5-year plan, the all-in-one plan, and the new plan would be, but they're just my guesses as to what this is.
Yeah.
I expect a construction manager to be able to narrow those numbers down to something a bit more accurate. So if I'm 10%, within 10%, that'd be great. I hope that they would be able to get to less than 5% very quickly. So with that, I believe it would give you folks, the school board and the committee, more information to be able to make decisions on some of these options.
These 3 options, they're gonna be
Yeah.
doing that for all 3 options.
Well,
And that's what I'm a little hazy on here.
it's how we direct them. They're
Okay.
essentially our consultant for
Okay.
a period of time.
Mhm.
And, you know, it might be, I call them up and say, hey, is concrete block or, you know, steel framing more cost effective in 2020? Or, you know, which style of construction should we be looking at in terms of cost? And they might be able to give me a rough figure of what the cost differences might be between the different styles of construction. So that would allow me to work on the design and the sort of outline specifications so that we can get it to a point where we can actually put better figures to it. So the whole idea is that they simply are a consultant answering the questions as we have them pretty much in real time. I talked to all of them about the need to be at committee meetings. So basically told them like at least once a month they'd have to be here for committee meetings, answering questions, and that through the process there would be at least once, if not several times, where they need to price the whole project. Generally on a square foot basis. The last project that I designed, the cost per square foot for hard construction only was about $160 to $170 a square foot. That's crept up to $180, $190, but I don't know because it's a few years old. I want a construction manager that has done it recently, and anybody that you know with their qualifications would be able to tell us, oh yeah, we're working on a school right now that's, you know, $195 a square foot. And so I can look at the style of design and interpolate, is what we're doing here going to be the same, more or less, and get us to a more accurate figure when we approach district meeting.
And will, a couple of the proposals talked about looking, or that one of their services is looking at the site and analyzing a site. Is that, in your perception, something they're going to consult on if we were to ask them? Or not? You know, I'm just wondering about that.
I think in terms of a general question like, we've got 2 sites, which one is easier to build on?
More buildable than the.
They
Right.
might give an answer for that. but
And it
not-
might be a thumbs up or thumbs down, not necessarily a detailed analysis of the site, but rather in general terms. You can tell by the topography on this that would be very difficult. We've got too many wetlands, we've got, you know, these things that are in the way. Some of these I might be able to tell myself pretty quickly. Other things, from their standpoint, because they're the ones with their feet in the trenches every day, they might come across something that I haven't and add to the conversation. So I don't necessarily see that particular item as being something above and beyond what we're already providing, but rather a complementary service that would add to the information that we have.
Okay.
Good, I mean, I've got most of mine.
All right, so my other question is I noticed that some of the people made mention to some green, you know, issues, lead, high-performance schools. Both, actually, two different groups said they had the first high-performance high school in New Hampshire.
Oh, really?
Which was really interesting, yeah, different, so I don't know which of them is accurate, but it doesn't really matter, but I guess, you know, I think that's something we need to consider, definitely, with all the, you know, everything that's moving forward and containing costs and being energy efficient for the long run, not just the minimum cost that we build, but we want this to be efficient into the future, beyond just what we build, so that we can save money down the road. And I just think that I would like to have us factor that in as we're considering these, and would be interested in your point of view on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, in this day and age, in order to stay current with design trends, you know, it needs to be very energy efficient. I know that Trumbull Nelson has done a lot of green buildings in and around the Lebanon and Hanover area. Not necessarily schools, but that still helps with the experience. I do know that Bonavane Stone, they were probably referring to the Idlehurst Elementary School in Somersworth. That was I believe it was CHIP certified, which is sort of equivalent to a LEED certification, but specifically for schools. And they also did Profile, which I believe was a high performance school. So I know both companies have a fair degree in energy efficiency. Yeah, you know, overall, I think the choice between all 4, there's no bad choice here. And it's a matter of, you know, how do we break it down to have a clear, almost mathematical conclusion to it, and that's why I came up with that matrix that you got.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kyle?
Good. It's good that I know how to deal with this right now.
Do you folks think that you'll want to interview, or what's your process going forward from here? Is there anything you want me to do in terms of communication with the CMs? It sounds like I kind of have 2 questions I need to ask them. One being the length of time that the construction manager, the pre-construction fee is good for, and the second one being on all the ones that didn't list it, what is their change order fee?
And viewing the site and analyzing the site, the building site, did you just say that and I didn't hear you?
No, I don't see that
You're
as,
pretty comfortable with that?
I'm pretty comfortable with it, that, you know.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I talked to all of them ahead of time, just laying out what the process that we were looking at was and what their responsibilities were. So, you know, that's not necessarily written into the RFP, but I know that they understand.
I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, exactly. So,
And Kyle, and all of these proposals, are these the most recent projects that, because some of them list their current projects and their
Yeah.
estimated completion date? I mean, I think that would be, my only other concern would be bonding limits
right.
and how many projects we're gonna have going on. I think the highest one I saw is 15 million aggregate so far.
The highest?
The highest that somebody has currently going on. But they have
Well,
$35 million in
yeah,
their bonding limits. So.
yeah. Trumbull Nelson, I believe it was 25 and 40, so they could do any one project, 25 million.
Right.
Aggregate in a year of 40. Bonnet Stone, I believe, was 35 and 70.
70, yeah.
Bonnet Stone is working on two fairly large school projects right now, Auburn and Hampton. Those are all in the 10 million range, I believe.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
Guilford Elementary
32 or
too,
33.
August of 19.
Oh, they have that?
is the end date.
That's one I've been working with them on. They listed out the last 10 years, major school projects. But like I said, there's at least, well, one of the big ones in 2005, we delivered the Raymond Middle School. That was a $13 million project. And I saw pictures in there, but they didn't give me any credit.
You know when that happens.
So I know that they've got, a lot more experience. When I was looking at Trumbull Nelson,
I know.
what got me was, again, the list of schools, I saw them, I'm thinking, oh, that's older, and when I dug into it, found out some of those went back to 1995, so more than 20 years old.
Yeah.
So they didn't stick to that 10-year limit.
I mean, that would be something I'd like to know, like, I think Hebert and BPS were the most clear on what they have for irons in the fire right now.
Yep.
Yes.
Or what they have that's currently open and they're still working on. And to me, that also shows where, not only how active they are, but can they handle us, or, are we gonna be, so, but Trumbull Nelson, I didn't see a good picture of what they have currently going on, nor did I get a cut of the same.
Right.
So I don't know if we can find that out from both of them as to what they not necessarily school projects, just projects in general. I know Hebert's got a huge project going at Leaks Medical Center.
Right.
It's just starting.
Yeah, schools.
So is there a way to see what Cutter and Trumbull Nelson have for current projects that are, and whatever percentage completion they are, so that we have an idea of how thinly spread out they
Hutter's gonna have a
are.
lot, because it looks like they're just do a ton of
Hutter
business.
Construction's a $100 million company.
Yeah,
They have,
they've got all kinds,
yeah,
and they
Their
have
part
the
is
highest
huge.
bond, so I think they would.
I just finished renovations at the Conval High School with them, and we do a lot of other, particularly healthcare related projects, and so I'm in their office a lot. They have a lot going on. I could probably find out a little bit more, but the fact of the matter is, I think that a project like this, especially if it's 2 years out, it's small compared to how large the company is. Whereas Trumbull Nelson, I would have a little more concern about them being able to absorb it.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. So Hutter, I wouldn't be concerned about. BPS, they've got two projects that are bigger than this going on right now. If they can handle those two at the same time, I'm sure they could work this out. And I just finished with them a $12 million multifamily with them that I completed in February. So, I'm really in tune with what their capabilities are.
And Hebert was one that has $15 million right now going on.
So again, is there any homework that I should have leading this meeting as far as lining up things? I don't want to tell the contractor something that you folks haven't approved.
I think we might have further discussion in non-public.
Okay.
But the questions you have, we need to know.
Right. Well, I'm back here tomorrow morning too, so if you guys have, folks have a discussion tonight.
8:30, bright and early.
And have a clear directive, what you want me to do, we can discuss it in the morning tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Select one? All right, great.
I'll hear about that.
Anything else you need from me?
I think so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
It's a good sleep before tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I'll see you in Lakeway in the morning.
Yep.
And Amy's scheduled for 8:30, so I'll be there before then.
Yeah, we can be there a little bit early.
So I think that's committee report, right?
Oh, this will do this now.
I know.
I don't know where we are.
Thank you, Kyle.
I think the fiscal director reports are all done. Committee reports, we have 4 job descriptions.
Yeah, we finally had.
Finally have something to
Yes.
turn around.
So we have a classroom teacher, adjunct classroom teacher, district parent educator, and elementary school social worker have all been appropriate with one another. Thank you, Patty, for helping with. Did everyone have a chance to look at them? Have any input?
I do. Big surprise there.
Go for it.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
So the adjunct classroom teacher, on page 2, I gotta pull it up on my computer here, so just bear with me. The first bullet, the word communication, I believe, should be communicate. So that's, I think it got fixed on one of the, I don't know if it did get fixed or if it didn't get fixed on the second one.
Let me see if I agree with you or not, Leslie.
Yeah, or please disagree. I'm happy to have that happen.
Fix that.
What did you say it was, Leslie?
Second page,
Second
first
page.
I
bullet.
thought it was something that we can't fix.
Yeah, I think we can fix no
I
classroom
think the
teacher,
descriptions
probably
look great. I
starts
mean,
with
the content is terrific. So I just a little thing to fix.
No, it's gonna be
If
consistent.
you want to fix these types of things.
Of course we do, Leslie. Darn it, get it right once we're doing it.
And then I do have a question on the social worker, job description, if you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I thought looked great. But I did wonder, and I'm gonna have to scroll to it here, but. Okay, so this is a job that we're adding in the middle of the year because there's just a huge need for mental health help, which I totally support. I just wanted to ask about in this description that one of the performance responsibilities is to facilitate community events and drives, such as Share and Care box program, annual food drives, Kamek boot drive, and business donations. And so I wondered about that a little bit, and I wondered if I could get feedback from that.
We did discuss it, Jen. We were there and,
I know that currently that's something that Lisa tries to do.
yeah.
So she's working, the Kamek food drive has been phenomenal. They always typically give us their leftover boots. After that big sale they have, they have just given us.
Which is awesome. I just hate to see somebody with an MSW who can be counseling kids and working with them tied up
I
with
think that's one of
organizing a
those
food
pieces
drive,
that,
you know? That's what, I just kind of wanted to figure out about that a little bit.
I think the link there, and maybe we can, maybe we have to wordsmith it a bit more, but it's not so much just facilitating that stuff, it's, you know, they hopefully will have the connections with the families, so they can then,
so we know who needs this
hand out
stuff.
the resources that,
Okay.
And I think that's the way we.
so I think it's more in collaboration with
Not
what
that they
Lisa's
actually-
doing.
Finding the families.
Yeah.
that need it.
So
And
maybe-
supporting that effort.
So maybe facilitate,
That's
Basically,
great.
the
I mean, I get what you're saying.
distribution of
I
resources
just,
that come
I
from-
And that's
really
really
would
what it
not
is. So
be.
right now, like the Share and
Okay.
Care box is a big recycling box outside of Lisa's office that can just come and take it. So we don't have anybody that has the ability to drill down and find the families that need it. You know what I mean? So it's the kids that are familiar that it's there, take it.
so facilitate.
We're missing a lot of families because we don't know they need
So
it.
so really,
Achieve
it's part of,
some-
they're already gonna be, you've got that covered really nicely about working with the families and providing resources, but I just wanted to make sure that the person wouldn't be tasked with organizing some type of drive. I don't, to me, I don't, in my opinion, and I'll just speak for myself, I don't think that would be a great use of their time after what you described when you proposed adding that in. So I'm not, obviously, I'm not opposed to them helping to get to the resources at all.
We had the same discussion and we were talking about this role fitting with and supporting the guidance counselor roles, them supporting each other in that communication with families, and so that's where this tracked.
Okay.
So you just say facilitate liaison?
Communicates, community.
That isn't the bullet that you're
Resources.
changing, Steve, is the one that I was talking about,
Yeah.
just so you know.
The third one down is, right?
It was,
It's
bottom.
facilitating community
The bottom.
events.
Oh, the bottom.
It should be.
Oops, yep, gotcha.
I thought it was
Did we not talk about
it? I thought it was that one
She
too.
gotta throw something in.
I totally, that looks great. I
Oh.
thought it was the fifth bullet.
I thought you were talking about the third one.
I got you.
Facility, community
There it
events
is.
and drives such as share and care boxes and, you know, I think it's more that they're going to be,
Facilitate the distribution.
Or maybe we just put something there like collaborate with school counselor,
Regarding
School
resources.
counselor program to
I just don't want somebody to read this and think, oh wow, I gotta organize and go drive. So it's like, no.
Yeah.
I agree with you,
There's other people that can do that, so, yeah, so, sorry, it's kind of nitpicky, but
So
I
can
think a
we,
new person coming in.
That's
could
why you
get
have a lot of eyes
confused.
look at it
Yeah.
though, because that makes sense.
So with that one, can we change that and table it until the next meeting for final adoption of first reading?
Can we make the adjustment? Because we'd be interviewing really quick.
That's the concern, is that they're
Okay.
I
interviewing.
think we need to make
Can
a
we
change.
approve the changes?
Just need one person telling me what they wanted to
Yep.
say.
Okay.
Can we drive Patty crazy?
you got your
Oh,
facility,
done.
buddy?
Done.
What if you
Yeah,
just
can
say
we
support
approve it?
community?
Yeah, can we just change facilitate to support
Community
Support.
outreach.
community outreach events?
That's what you want her to do, or him.
Really what, like Erica's mentioned, it's like the Thanksgiving baskets, we get offered 15 to 20 baskets and then we have to try to figure out who needs them. And it's not as easy as you think to determine who needs a basket and who would be willing to accept a basket. And the social worker is really involved with families and would have that knowledge and would be able to say to Lisa, I have 10 families I know right now that need them.
Yeah, so maybe it's support community outreach to provide resources to needy families. Instead of being specific with those, you just
Yeah, and I don't know if you need to be specific with what
You
they
know,
are
you
because they're
distribute
sometimes they
community-
change.
You're really helping, you're distributing community resources
To
to those
families.
in need, to
Yeah.
families, you know, so you're helping to identify families who need community resources and that type of thing, something like that, you know, I don't have the answer, and I get it that you, I'm comfortable with,
These particular programs may change also.
yeah, so it's more of a
But they do.
general,
Yeah,
right,
they-
And then you-
so.
don't,
Well-
maybe not a name.
Jim,
it.
maybe
You
not.
don't want to be
it
that
just says
specific.
word.
If you go if you were to remove, if you were to just simply remove,
Okay, I can,
That boat.
if you were to remove this bullet, go 2 bullets down, and it says serves as liaison between school, family, and community
I would be
resources.
comfortable with
That
that.
works.
So just remove the bullet altogether.
Because to be honest,
I felt like
the
it was
Candy
covered,
Food Drive
you
has only
know?
happened for a few years. I don't know if that will be a forever event.
Right.
Right,
Yeah, I wouldn't put
Right.
specific programs on that.
And
because
the
it's,
job descriptions are changing weekly.
I know, we'll just send it back to
They're
you.
coming back around.
But for
To
example,
look
we wouldn't
at.
want to have to update the job description every time a new organization
No.
donates stuff.
and that's their job, is to figure out those resources and get, I think it's great, I think it's, hopefully it's really gonna help. It is quite a bit of
You
things
took it
to
out?
cover there.
Okay.
But I do think it is covered with that bullet.
I think it is too.
I think you're right.
Some discussion.
So are we okay to adopt this with that
As
change?
amended. As amended, yes.
Adopt the clinical social worker, whatever it's called, school social worker, by deleting that top bullet on the second page.
And what is the fourth bullet? It says evidence in depth. Did you mean evidence of in depth? Is that what you meant there, or I just wondered about that? What is it?
Which one?
The fourth bullet on the
evidence of.
social worker.
Under
Okay.
required quality.
So just, okay, so if we could also amend it to put in the word of under the fourth bullet to say evidence of in-depth knowledge.
Done by the magic fingers over there.
That is good.
Just in depth.
Patty, you all set?
Yep, feel validated.
I'll make a motion. Good. I'll make a motion to accept the job description for the elementary school social worker as amended.
Do you have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 2 more job descriptions. All set with them, ladies and gentlemen?
We had a correction in
Just with the correction on the adjunct classroom teacher, yeah. I'm okay with them.
Yeah, Agile.
right, so do you want to do a separate motion for that? As amended.
Sure, I'll make a motion to adopt the job description for the adjunct classroom teacher as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. So, classroom teacher and district parent educator, are we all set with that? Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion. I'll make a motion that we adopt the job descriptions for the parent educator and the classroom teacher.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That was hard. We finally got them approved, though, that's something.
Yes.
Yeah, that is something.
Yeah, they're well written, we put some effort into them. Formatting's good, they look good.
So, anything on facilities? I don't think so at this time, right?
No.
Okay.
No, we just have to table it till the next meeting, right?
Right, we're fine with that. Policy has a meeting on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. So I guess we're next is the superintendent's report.
All right. I heard you say personnel there.
Next month, right? She
Yeah,
just said
I'm looking
next
at the 7th of November will be the next
month.
personnel
I
meeting.
probably have it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Okay, superintendent report. I just hit a few high points. Jennifer mentioned the NEAS report, and it's, I know you had a lot of reading to do, and so if you go back and look at her report, you'll see a link there that you can go to and see the draft that's done. It's 111 pages long, and a lot of that is stuff that's actually written. I mean, you can put big reports together that most of the stuff's already there, but if you look at that report, a good chunk of that's actually narrative that was written by the individuals involved in the committees, especially Vanessa, Jeremy, the chairs. I mentioned Jennifer wrote a couple of those, or had some work in it, and some other people too. So that's a tremendous amount of work, and I just wanted to note that. Speaking of work, it's not in my little agenda here, but I was sitting there as you were all listening to Mel talk about what we're doing with staff development and in CBE and in UDL, and didn't talk as much about SEL tonight, but we have a lot going on there too. It's we're asking our teachers to do a lot, and it's not easy. I think we really have to remember that I think oftentimes we start talking about school, and I think that's one of our biggest challenges is articulating that with our community and internally as well, that the schools that we have today and the challenges that we have today are nothing like the past. I shouldn't say nothing like the past. There are similarities, but they're much greater. And so yeah, and we have teachers that during their plan period are doing staff development, embedded staff development. We do send some people out still, but the old model of staff development, when you went to a nice conference and we're gone 2 or 3 days, a lot of that we don't do as much anymore for a lot of reasons. One being that we don't like the expenses with that, having people out of the classroom. It's more what we're doing now, which are shorter sessions but more frequent. So my hat's off to people who are managing that, teachers especially, for all the work that they're doing to learn everything that we're asking them to learn, and to make some pretty significant fundamental shifts in practice. And then, of course, back to where I started with the NEASC and all the work that's being done there. Driver's the certification, we will have a van soon, I'm told. And sometime next month in November. I've been working with Judy Haslett on setting up training. We will have our drivers trained as school bus drivers for that certification. And we have 20 people who have been identified as individuals needing. We may need to have a setup to do that training. And at this point, she has 15 of them confirmed, and she's working with Department of Safety to get that set up. The training will be sometime early November. It will be on a Saturday. We already talked a little bit when Kyle was here. Amy Clark will be here tomorrow. She's the administrator of the New Hampshire Department of Education, School Safety and Facility Management. And the purpose of her visit will be to go over our building aid application and another form that is called the Building Conditions Report. And I'll be also sharing with them Kyle's work as well. And anything else, I met with Joe Mercieri, the fire chief today. Just any final words of wisdom from him and things that we may need to include in our discussion tomorrow with her as well. And by the way, he's pleased to see the work that's been done at both schools. Some of the things that have been popping up in the reports that we've taken care of, the stairs and the cleaning up of the drama, moving the drama supplies, approved locations, some of those things. And then the socio-emotional work that we're doing in that area, and again, you hear a lot about the trauma-based learning and trauma-sensitive schools, and we did have our consultant in several weeks ago, and again, I'm in talking with some other individuals, but again, I want to say I think we're doing some really good work here, and it's really, I guess we're a little ahead in the game, maybe with some other places. We don't have the resources that some of the places have, but we've been very, very fortunate, especially with SAU 36. Their help with our work in here has been critical, and with helping with allowing our teachers to attend some of their programs. But the fact that we have identified and are implementing a curriculum, an SEL curriculum, the Choose Love curriculum, the fact that we have a consultant will be coming in on a regular basis to work with our teachers one-on-one if needed, in small groups as needed. The fact that we've elevated it to the level that we have, I think, is really good work, and I think will pay off in the long run. Certainly help our kids and our teachers with the issues that we have related to trauma. So that's with that, I'll end my report.
Thank you. Motion to move non-public.
Make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the right to know law for number 2 and number 3, or number 3. Number 3, matters which if discussed in public would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Taking with us the superintendent.
We'll check my ad team, anything you need to discuss.
They just want to go home.
I don't know of anything. I never want to assume that.
Definitely can't wait.
So, I guess it's just Patty and Tom then, or
Superintendent, business manager, and Patty.
Okay, second. Roll call.
Brad Cook.
Leslie Robbins.
Noah Nelson.
Kim Wilson. Ann Wiggett.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.